What's your favorite kind of, like, British candy?
I don't know what is British. I have no idea.
I'm asking because I was thinking about Narnia when the kid, like, gets in the White Witch's carriage and he's
yes.
oh shit, Turkish Delight.
What is Turkish Delight?
Turkish Delight is like a semi-gelatin kind of candy, I think.
Oh.
I don't know. It's never been my thing. I'm more of a toffee guy.
Okay, fair.
Welcome back to Toffee Prince.
I was about to say it too.
Ooh,
welcome to Toffee Prince. Wow. All right. So episode 6 was very good. And we left off on Gyul pulling Unchan up, being like, "Let me give you a hug because I might be gay."
Yeah, he's like, "Fine, just give me a hug. It's fine. I'm your boss. I order you to give me a hug."
Yeah, it was really like, wait a minute.
Hold on. Hold up.
Anyway, but that's where our freeze frame was. So, oh, and we had that little, like, Unchan had the little speech that was like, "Oh, if only you didn't hug me."
Yeah.
Yeah, the feeling.
The really dramatic, just, like, white text, black background.
Yes. So, as far as that goes, what do you think is going to happen in episode 7, Jaren?
I believe that whatever happened at the end of the last episode is going to be hand-waved away.
Yeah.
And then we're just immediately gonna get into another, like, tangential plot line. Probably something involving, CB.
Okay.
I feel like CB and Sungi haven't had, like, a character moment yet together.
That's right, and we did have a little bit of sprinkling of, Sungi's, whatever.
So I hope the show just transitions into, like, he's trying to find his mom, and that's why he's in Korea. Oh. And we get a full 50 minutes of that, and then, like, 5 minutes of Hansung and Yuju, and 5 minutes of Hangyul and Chan.
Alright, can I make an amendment?
Okay.
Can I say we get, like, a cool 8 minutes of Hangul and Chan and, like, a 2 minutes of Hansung?
You're absolutely right. 9 minutes of Hangul and Chan, and a minute of Hansung and Yuju.
Really 1 minute for every age and the age difference between Unchan.
There's only 50 minutes in, like, an episode.
Yeah, that's right.
We can't have, like, a 67-minute episode.
We could. If we wanted to. Alright, yeah, that sounds good. I'm on board.
I'm on board, too.
Yeah, alright. We're gonna go watch it. BRB. Should I leave an away message?
No, nobody in the 21st century knows what that is.
Why not? Some of these people are, I don't know, not 12.
Yeah, our demographic, actually, according to our servers.
Oh, yeah.
We're big with the 65 and up crowd.
That's right.
All retirees do now is watch K-drama.
Yeah, that's right. The demographics that we, in fact, do have. I'm reading them right now.
So many charts.
Wow, look, this chart says that we're doing good. Thanks.
We'll put it on the fridge.
Oh, good. Okay, we'll be back. Stay tuned. Hello, I am Kara, and I am into rom-coms.
Hello, I am Jaren, and I am into the hairstyles of the late 80s.
Ooh, but you know what we're both into? Hot drinks and hot boys.
And this is...
Just Kiss Already! Hey everyone, we're back. We watched it. Before we get into it, I have just been informed. We were reviewing the prediction that was made to just refresh our memory, and Jaren informed me that he doesn't know what AIM Instant Messenger is. I'm shocked. You didn't have one?
No, we had like an old Microsoft computer, but I just used it to play like Microsoft Pinball.
So if I made the sound to you, that wouldn't mean anything to you?
That I can in fact testify that does not mean anything.
Alright, so there will be no cool fun away messages with 50 tildes in them. There will be no... I'm trying to, like, say all these things, but you don't know what they are. I don't know what to do with myself.
I legit asked after we stopped recording, like, oh yeah, an away message is your voicemail or something, right?
It's I mean, I guess good on you that you don't have, like, a dark past where you have, like, an old username that you have to, like, try and forget existed.
Uh-huh.
I mean, on like, AIM.
Uh-huh.
Mine was Kitty Queen 0421.
Ooh.
I wanted it to be something more, like, cool and, like, dark and whatnot, because I was, like, I remember I made it, my dad was making the account for me, and he was like, what do you want it to be? And I was like, something like darkness, witch, princess, and he was like, no. And I was like, okay, and he was like, something else, and I was like, I like cats, Kitty Queen. like, that's acceptable.
Oh, man.
Little did he know you could change it. It wasn't that big of a deal.
Oh.
Yeah, I changed it like 3 times. I only like capitalized and then like not capitalized the letters.
Well, good, because I'm glad you changed it, because now you might have people from the show trying to contact you on AIM.
That's right.
You just gave your username out without even thinking.
Oh gosh, what am I gonna do? They're gonna find me.
They're just gonna give you like a little message alert, and then it's gonna get your away message, whatever that was.
Yeah, it's probably, I don't even know. I can't even think of what kid me. There's a :3 and probably like a raw. I don't know.
Coffee Prince.
Anyway, yes, we are back. We watched the episode. We did it. Unfortunately, there is not only 1 minute of Yuju and Hansung. There is much more of them.
It was kind of close, though.
Yeah, that's true.
This was like the lightest episode we've had of them in a while.
It was less them interacting with each other and more them interacting with other people.
Oh yeah,
which was
time.
kind of good to see, just to get that perspective. But anyway, yeah. So we cut back and we get the nice little build up to the hug. We get the "come with me up the stairs, I'm your boss," which is cool and great.
This hug sequence in the very beginning is where we get the alternate title for today's episode.
Really? Right off the bat?
Right off the bat. I was looking for something better to come along, but it never really did.
Okay, fair.
So the alternate title for this episode is the 5-point palm exploding heart technique.
No!
Because the big hug happens, Hangyul's eyes are open during this, and then Unchan slowly like closes her eyes and puts the hand on his back.
Yes.
And then he walks away and he's like, "Whoa, that was nothing, fine." And then he takes his 5 steps and his heart literally explodes while he's in the hallway.
For a second, they make it seem like we're just gonna write it off. Like he's gonna be like, "Oh, I don't feel anything," and we're gonna continue on with our slow discovery of feelings.
Yeah.
But no, he felt something. He just didn't want to let anyone know.
Yeah.
Ooh, so this episode gets into some stuff. Tell ya.
Yeah.
What?
I just want to know your opinion on the whole eyes open versus eyes closed hug.
When you say my opinion, do you mean my professional opinion or my personal opinion?
Well, we'll go into both.
Okay.
But just as a preface, because I don't want you to have to speak out without knowing where the audience is standing on this.
Okay.
I'm very much like, hey, if I'm hugging someone, you close your eyes. It's like,
Yes.
hey, nice hug.
Fair, yeah.
If your eyes are open during a hug, it's super weird.
Okay.
Because if there's people around and you're just making eye contact with somebody who's like not currently wrapped around you, and it's just like he looks weird when it's happening because his eyes are just kind of bugging out.
Yeah.
And Unchan meanwhile is like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
It's like an inequity. Like you want, it would be fine if they both had their eyes open. It's all about sameness, I think.
Yeah.
So that being said,
so personal opinion, I agree with you. I'm very, if I hug someone, I feel like I close my eyes. It's just kind of like a nice little, like, it's warm and you just kind of want to, like, I don't know, I feel like it just feels natural.
Yeah.
My professional opinion, as somebody who has watched many, many rom-coms many, many times, is that the eyes closed always seems to kind of, like, signify that somebody is accepting those feelings.
Yes.
That's just kind of like, so I feel like when I watched it, I read it very much as like, and this episode kind of, it touches on that a lot, where we have Gyul, who is very, like, doesn't really want to accept these feelings he's having, is very doubtful of them, is very confused by them, and is struggling with them a lot, versus Unchan, who has kind of, like, wholeheartedly accepted them, and is like, you know what? Yeah, I like this dude.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because we'll mention it much later in the podcast, but I definitely agree with, like, eyes open is, like, you're anchoring yourself in the real world, and this is just, like, happening to you. Yeah. When you close your eyes, it's like you're along for the ride. Like, because he's lost in, like, the sensation when you close your eyes. It's like, very nice.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So we have this hug, and Gyul kind of tries to be like, whatever, but then he steps away, and his heart obviously disagrees.
Yeah.
As does the romantic music that played during the hug. Freaking listen, Gyul. But yeah, I literally wrote, haha, cool, I'm not gay, and meanwhile, Unchan is, like, falling over with her weak knees.
No, like, I wrote, like, she legitimately looks like she just got punched in the face. Like, she's kind of dazed. Also, I got jealous that you got to give a professional opinion.
Oh, do you want to give your professional opinion?
I would like to give my professional opinion.
I'm so sorry, the floor is open.
It just occurred to me.
Okay.
Because you're super into rom-coms, but I'm super into horror movies.
Yeah,
So my professional horror movie opinion is you should always hug with your eyes open. Because otherwise, You're leaving
Yeah.
yourself vulnerable.
That's true. I guess that vulnerability is really the
yeah.
tying factor. Little did we know horror movies and rom-coms have so much in common.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so he's lying to himself, or he lied to Un-chan, and he's lying to himself a little bit. So
big time. There's so much denial.
Yes.
That like you could build a pyramid in this episode.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Because it's denial.
I was like, wait, I don't know what that has to do with triangle.
Well, there also are enough love triangles to build a pyramid.
Yes, there absolutely.
Coincidentally.
Man, the strongest base. Anyway,
I think CB would be the strongest base.
CB is 100% the strongest base. CB could pick up the tiny flyer girl and throw her like 20 feet in the air.
The tiny fly girl?
Yeah, like cheerleading.
Oh!
That's what I thought of when I said base.
See, in my professional opinion,
please,
I thought you were talking about the David Cronenberg, Jeff Goldblum movie, The Fly.
Yeah.
So there was just a The Fly girl.
Actually, I was talking about Lord of the Flies.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
So they're gonna sharpen the stick on both ends. And then just yeet it.
Yes. Anyway, Yuju gets a phone call.
Oh, yeah.
And she's on the phone talking to someone. Who do you think it is, Darren?
I think it's our favorite character that we've never seen. Donkey Kong. And Yuju is a perfect character because he asks a personal question.
Yes.
And she ignores it.
Yep.
And I'm like, good.
Good.
Yes.
I found myself writing among my notes at various points. There are various points where I wanted to write it, and I ended up only writing it once, but I was like, God, I love Yuju. Like, she's a very good character in person, and I really like what she kind of, like, represent. I just like her presence in this whole plot, this whole drama. I really think that it's like, hey, look at this person who actually like knows how to handle shit. Like, this is good.
It's like a foil thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Un-chan and Un-se, and Un-chan I would say is the more responsible of the two. So she's foiling against little sister. And then Yuju comes in as like even bigger sister. Yeah. Like the Blastoise to Un-chan's war turtle. And it's just like, I am so much buffer emotionally than you. Like, look at how tough and cool I am.
Look at my cool buff heart.
Dude, her heart's freaking jacked.
Her heart is jacked. She gives her heart, like, protein shakes. So Yuju's chatting to someone, probably Donkey Kong, and then we cut back to the cafe.
Just awkward silence.
Yes. It's very cool.
They're, Han, Gyul, and Un-chan just kind of 1,000-yard staring.
Yep.
Like, not even at each other, just kind of around each other.
CB gets involved on accident. Because, like, Un-chan, like, stalks off, and then Gyul is like, hey, tell Un-chan to meet me, because I gotta run some errands. And CB is like, what? Where? Can you give me more information? And he goes, no. And CB is like, why is everyone bullying me?
I mean, honestly, I'm so glad that my translation called him Blockhead, and then I decided to call him Charlie Brown.
Oh, good.
Because he straight up just goes, everyone pushes me around. And then I heard, like, the Peanuts Christmas music, like the da-na-na, da-da-na-na. This poor boy, he just wants to work. And he's like, have you ever been in a working situation where two people are a couple, and it just makes everything bad?
Yes.
Ooh.
I've been in a working situation where two people got together.
I asked because I learned recently from another coworker that the person who hired me at my job like 3 years ago was dating the only other person in my department before I came along.
Oh.
And there was a huge age difference. And also, the girl who was my coworker had a boyfriend at the time.
Oh my god.
And that's the story of how I ended up being my own boss for 6 weeks during that fallout.
Oh, no.
Where all three of them left the job.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, it was bananas.
Oh man.
So I was really feeling bad for CB.
Yeah.
Just because there's nothing worse than emotional crossfire.
Yeah.
While you're also trying to remember someone's sandwich order.
Yeah, man, poor CB. So anyway, they go book shopping. They're getting some books, and it's the classic, like, Un-chan is like, why did you call me here for this errand? And Han-gyul is saying nothing and is like buying all these books.
So weird.
And then at the end is like, these books are for you. And it's like, literally, why didn't you just say that?
She's
like,
real happy about it too. She's like, oh, I get to learn to be a barista.
Oh yeah, I literally wrote down like Unchan is so easily won over because she's literally like, why are we here? Like, what? Here's a book we should buy. No, we don't want. Why? What is happening? Can you carry them? And then he's like, these books are for you, and she's like, oh my god, really?
That's like
I'm so happy.
a good important point is that they find a book that's like written by his dad.
Yes.
That's like how to be the cool food businessman. And then
standing on the
Han
cover with
Gyul's
his
like
arms
dismissive.
crossed.
He's like, he's not even the chairperson.
Yeah.
That's me grandma.
Oh man, and then Unchan is like looking at it and looking at him being like, there's no resemblance. Your dad is pretty fucking great.
I really thought that like maybe there's something with Han Gyul being adopted maybe. Because Han Sung gets treated much more like a family member, and that would be his nephew.
Yeah.
Like over his son in this situation.
Okay, yeah.
And also I wanted to point out that what we've seen of the two characters, Dongan Foods basically,
Yes.
is grandmother, been in the factory floor,
Yes.
been in the lab while taking calls from grandson.
Yes.
Father, in the office listening to music,
Yeah.
coming downstairs to golf.
Yeah.
He's not been shown working in any capacity so far.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was kind of siding with Hong Yul here and being like, okay, well maybe the dad is just kind of like second generation inheritor of a business.
Yeah, me too. Unfortunately, all we've really seen of his father is not the best. Like you said, yeah, we haven't seen him working, and we've only kind of seen this like weird tension that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So when Han Gyul was like, my grandma's the one who's like the cool one, I was like, yeah, grandma's cool. Like, dude, what? Dad? Who cares?
Yeah, dude. Ride or die for granny.
Ride or die for grandma. So he's like, these books are for you. And then Unchan is happy, Han Gyul is happy, we get a nice short burst of happiness, and as we always do when there's a nice burst of happiness, it's time to crush it!
Yeah. Usually in the form of a phone ringing.
That's right.
So the phone is ringing.
Pick it up.
Unchan picks it up. Hey, it's the Antichrist.
Oh no! That's right, everyone. Han Sung is here.
Yeah.
He enters.
Enter Han Sung.
And he's like, hey, listen to this song I wrote. And Unchan is like, okay. And just kind of literally runs off and
Just
is like...
runs ahead to a phone booth. Han Gyul had taken the books from her.
Yes.
Because she was kind of complaining about, like, you're making me carry these hot books in the sun?
Yeah.
What the heck? You should buy me a drink. Which, smooth. But...
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Unchan.
So, she, like, goes and stands in a phone booth on her cell phone and is, like, listening to this song.
Yeah.
And you can see Han Gyul getting pissy.
Yeah.
Because he's like, hey.
He's...
Hey, who's that?
You don't... It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but come on. And then Han Sung is like, hey, who's that? Is that my cuz? Are you with my cousin? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, I guess I'll call you back. Like, I really wanted to bring up this specific thing because
yes.
Unchan is frustrated by Yuju,
mm-hmm.
who seemingly, like, has the love of both Han Sung and Han Gyul.
Yes.
And in the same way, Han Gyul is frustrated by Han Sung, who seemingly has the love of both Yuju and Unchan.
Yes.
So we've graduated from love triangle to love trapezoid.
Not to mention that Yuju is a little frustrated because Unchan seemingly has the love. And
it's a love pentagram.
No wonder he's the Antichrist.
Oh, the number of the beast.
Is Han Sung even frustrated at all?
Han Sung is just dopey.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna find out that,
he's not so much frustrated. He's more just kind of like, because he's now in this state where he's kind of like, everything is fine.
Yeah.
And we're like, Han Sung, you idiot.
Just an ignorant slut. God.
I think my favorite part of this scene is when Unchan is listening to the song, and Han Gyul finds out that it's Han Sung, and she, like, runs out and is like, hey, do you want to listen? And Han Gyul is like, no. And she goes, you're lost, and just runs right back.
It's so good. Because earlier he's like, I hate you, but I'm being nice to you. And she's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And he just doesn't respond.
Yeah.
It's like, he feels in control. Well, I wrote, he just spelled it out for us. Like, do you hear that? It's the sound of the Sundair plane taking off. Seatbelt sign on.
Oh, yeah. No smoking.
Buckle up, y'all. And so they're going through this, like, all things the same like they were having kind of a date.
Yes.
And then it's like Hansung intrudes in this, and that ruins the mood. And so he's like, whatever, I'm not carrying these books.
Yeah, oh yeah, he literally throws them down at her feet. Is like,
and she's like, what? Well, come on.
Yeah.
What is that for?
Now it's time for accidental subway Cabedon. Everyone.
Cut to the part of my notes where it says Cabedon incoming.
We get on the subway.
Oh, for the uninitiated.
Oh yes. Please.
Cabedon is the word for when
For the uninitiated.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, keep going.
So, it's that thing of when somebody's got their back to a wall, and then either accidentally or on purpose, somebody, generally taller and of the opposite sex, but we don't discriminate, just kind of whomps their hand against that same wall.
Menacing.
It's like they're romantically menacing them.
They're romantic, aggressive,
It's
supposedly.
It's like the cutest bullying imaginable. And then, of course, there's advanced versions. There's two-hand Cabedon.
There's leg Cabedon.
There's all four limbs where you're just posted up on the corner like Spider-Man. Just trapping your romantic interest.
Oh, man. I like the one where it's like someone's about to Cabedon and then they grab their arm and twist them around and get a surprise alternate Cabedon.
Oh!
Have you
I've not seen
this?
the reversal.
I've seen a couple of videos of just like all these different random ones.
That's beautiful.
Very good. You know, they
it's
pop
a
up
rich culture, Cabedon. Please get involved in the community.
Everyone, listen. We made a Facebook group. We're getting excited. But yes, so they're on the subway and they're having fun smacking each other, I guess.
Yeah, they're just jostling
Yeah.
like two bros do.
Yeah. And then a bunch of people get on the subway all at the same time, and that means it's time for like them to get pushed to the back. And Hangul is doing the thing where he's like creating distance by keeping his arms straight.
Yeah, elbows braced.
And Unchan is like, hey, you're gonna bother the people behind you. You bend your elbow, and just kind of like chops his arm. So his elbow bends, he comes a little closer, and she's like...
They're like hands-free hugging, kind of.
She's like, ooh.
Yeah, she loves it. But she gets a little bit like upset, I think, because doesn't the bumping and jostling like break her little robot in the pocket?
Yes, that's right. Her little boy, her little Lego boy.
Unchan
Breaks, and she pulls it out, and she's like, oh no. And Hangul, you can tell that like part of him, you know, he makes the comment that's like, why'd you have it in your pocket? What the, of course it's gonna break. But also you know that he's like, oh.
No, this begins like this whole episode is like, it's bad for my opinion of the boy. Because he's just kind of spending the whole time being like, you idiot. Why you do that? Oh, my heart.
It's
like,
very much, this entire episode is Hangul almost doing something good and then backpedaling on it because he doesn't think he should.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just very frustrating because he keeps like, you know, he buys the books for her and it's like, oh, this is really sweet because like she's expressed this passion, and then he gets angry and he throws them. And then he makes her this cute little robo dude, and then soon we'll see he takes that right back.
Just is a huge bitch about it.
So yes, then the Lego break, we're sad. But,
and we
you know.
cut to the spreadsheet program that he's got pulled up on his computer.
Yes, of course.
And he keeps hitting the minimize button, and we see that his computer background is now that picture of Unchan from a previous episode that he was just kind of like zooming in on.
Yeah, it's literally like he's just opening and closing the window so he can like flash look at Unchan's happy face.
Yeah, it's really just like, I think we've all been there, where you have like a group picture, but your crush is in it.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like,
yeah,
this is a good picture of them, but like I could justify putting this somewhere.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, look, it's all of us.
Or it's like you happen to be like standing together and you're like,
oh, yo, how did that happen? Oh my god. Wow, weird.
Wow, so
Remember
funny.
when we went to the lake?
Sorry, guys, I just kind of had to like crop it a little bit.
Like everyone's blinking and their face, like the hair's all motion blurred.
Yeah.
And it's just Unchan's the only visible person.
Though if you look close, you'll see that Hangul's face is like right next to hers.
Ooh. I was too busy being strobed by the Excel spreadsheet to notice.
But yeah, Hangul is having his regularly scheduled bed angst.
Yeah.
He's angry. Not angry, he's just like stressed and confused and very... Poor this sad man who can't handle his feelings.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, so then we cut to a day at the cafe, and Hangul has decided that in order to take back this sweet gesture that he has done for Unchan, he's going to make it normal. I'm doing air quotes, everyone. He's gonna make it normal and just a bro thing by giving everybody else one. And Unchan rolls up and sees that Sungki has one in his locker, and he makes a comment, and she's like, oh, whoa, what's this? And he's like, oh, it's like a 1-month anniversary gift, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care, I'm angsty. and then walks away, and she gets real excited. She's like, oh, heck yeah, I love this. She opens her locker, nothing is there. Opens everyone else's locker, they all have one.
They all have a cool Bionicle.
Yeah.
Except for Mr. Hong is like a Lego monkey.
Yeah.
Which is the cutest.
But yeah, so she's like, so at first she's like, what? But then she goes, oh, I
know
get
what's
it.
going on.
He's gonna give me mine special. She's like real excited. So she goes up to him and she's like, hey, where's my Lego man? And he's like, you already have one. And she's like, what?
But,
What? What do you mean I already have one? Are you gonna give me another one? And he's like, no.
This just, like, slaps of these people never had, like, kindergarten relationships.
Yeah.
Like, this is exactly the kind of shit you do, like, I gave you the purple crown because it's my favorite.
Yeah, right?
And then you get embarrassed and you're like, I took all the purple crowns.
Yeah, literally.
Everybody has one now because that's, like, my thing that I do. It's not like I like you or anything.
It's not like you or anything.
God.
So then, Unchan is, like, not happy, and CB runs in, as he always does.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's like, hey, someone bullying you?
Dude, I wish I grew up with somebody like CB.
Right?
Who could just walk into a room and flex and be like, is there bullying happening here?
Hey!
This is a bully-free
Who is
zone.
bullying? I get bullied sometimes and I don't like it. Who is bullying?
Hall monitor CB.
Very good.
He goes and, he talks to Mr. Hong.
Oh my god, yeah, we cut to Mr. Hong peeing, and
Like
CB rolls up, opens the window where Mr. Hong's face happens to be, and is like, hey. And Mr. Hong is like, what the I am peeing? And CB is like, I heard that you know that Unchan has titties.
He's so oblique about it. I'm sorry, opaque about it.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he's doing the classic, like, feminine hand gesture.
Hourglass figure thing.
Yeah, surfing hands.
He's literally like, you know that the...
Which is, like, that's the least accurate descriptor of Unchan, is doing that, like, hourglass
that
shit.
weird, like, big titty, big booty. But yeah, he's like, I hear you know. And Mr. Hong is like...
Does she know that you know?
Yeah,
like, he's immediately, like the adult. Like,
yeah.
he's concerned. He's like, is she aware?
Yeah.
Like,
and he's like, I won't tell anyone.
God.
And then that's the end of it. He just kind of, like, runs up, like,
yeah, I guess they're a team now.
Yeah.
Like, everybody, this is a great example of, like, good show writing, because every character is developing a relationship to each character individually.
Yes.
So, Hong and CB, secret team. CB and Unchan, Secret Keepers Sister Association.
Mm-hmm.
Just little stuff like that.
Yeah.
We'll see one later.
We'll see some more of the development of some of the friendships and the relationships and the teams. Yeah.
This is actually something, like, this is what we were doing with D&D.
Mm-hmm.
This is the bond system at work, where
you
just write a sentence and you're like, this character thinks this about the other character, and you guys gotta resolve it.
Yeah, we've got a D&D campaign right at the beginning. Jaren is the DM, the man in charge. And right at the beginning, we did this thing where we established, like, connections and, like, bonds that our characters share to, like, give us something to, like, work towards, and give us something also to, like, just something, like, I don't know, how would you explain it?
It's just to promote, like, role-playing.
Okay.
Because I've had lots of games of D&D that just turn into people, like, rolling dice and getting big number.
Yeah.
But I love it so much more when people are talking to each other.
Yeah.
And I love that in shows, too, especially ones where they want you to care about the relationships, like romantic ones.
Yeah.
Because you need that time invested, and you need to see them interacting in non-romantic context.
Yes.
Because if everything you see about them is just that they're constantly all over each other, or they constantly have good feelings.
It's not fun.
It's not fun.
It's boring. It's lame.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, yes, CB knows the thing, and I wrote in my notes, how rim good. Do you know why?
I have many reasons why, but I don't know.
Okay, this is not meant to be a rhetorical question. This is meant to me being like, what happens next?
They're talking about the anniversary of her father's passing, I think.
Oh, yes. So, Unchan comes out, and Mr. Hong makes a comment that's like, oh, is your mom, like, I don't remember what exactly he says.
Did she make enough, like, pancakes?
Yes. And then Unchan is like, oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, what's going on? And she's like, oh, it's the anniversary of my father's passing. And Harim immediately is just kind of like, oh, it's always good to, like, have more people on these kinds of occasions. And he's like, you know, I'll come. CB, you gotta come. Sungi, you gotta show up. Gyul, you coming.
Mm-hmm.
And Gyul's like, doesn't say anything. And he's like,
just literally wanders off.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell, man?
We know that there's things running through his head because he just found out an important piece of information.
Mm-hmm.
As always. And he's got to figure out if he's going to give her the purple crown again.
Oh, God.
But yeah, so we find out that it is the anniversary of Unchan's father's death, and it is time for them to have the anniversary dinner together.
Yes.
But before we get there, first we cut to Gyul, like, trying to be cool and then cringing at himself.
I wrote the same.
Yeah.
Because she goes upstairs and he's like, hey, you know, I guess I could give you a half day today.
Oh, yeah, he's like, you can get off work early or whatever.
She's like, are you trying to give me, like, the day off because it's, like, my Memorial Day for my father?
Mm-hmm.
And they exchange this look. Like, one of those, like, long, sweet looks. And then he just kind of goes, like, what? I forget what he says exactly. But...
Me too. All I know is that he says it, and then he turns around and immediately is like, Gyul, you idiot.
Oh, yeah, he's like, hey, it's gonna be even harder for you if you, like, fall for me. And she's like,
oh,
you're
yes,
a
yes,
narcissist.
Yes. They're looking at each other, and he's like, what? Do you like me? And she doesn't respond, and he's like, because if you do, it's gonna be hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turns around and he's like, I'm so dumb. And she's like, you're what? All right, whatever.
Oh, God.
It's very funny to see that Gyul also knew that was a dumb thing to say.
And this is, like, again, full credit to the people who wrote this show.
Yes.
And to the actor playing Gyul. He has that moment of, why the fuck did I say that?
Yes.
And it's because it was unrehearsed.
Yes.
And then in the show,
yes,
there's 2 instances later on this episode where you see him rehearsing.
Yes.
Because he knows his instincts are bad.
He's like, when I just let myself talk, it's always dumb. I need to practice. So then we cut to everybody at Unchan's place having this anniversary dinner. Gyul is not there. But we do have Harim and CB, and even Waffle Boy has rolled up.
Yes.
And CB is, like, trying to flirt a little with Unse, being like, hey...
He's sitting next to her. He's, like, stoked to be there. Everybody's kind of on their knees or on their butt, and he's, like, on his heels.
He's squatting. He's feeding Harim food. He tries to feed Waffle Boy food, but Waffle Boy's like, no.
They do close-ups on this food, and, like, you get the idea that it's supposed to be unsavory and that Unse is not, like, the best cook.
Yeah, CB is making all these comments like, wow, like, what can't you do, my angel? And she's kind of, like, trying really hard to, like, make this, like, a little, like, pancake, and she just can't do it.
She's like, I can't get rid of you.
And Waffle Boy is just, like, staring at this piss poor pancake job and literally just ends up shoving CB aside and being like, it is my turn, I am Waffle Boy.
Yeah.
And he makes, like, perfect pancake. Unse is like, oh my god,
they're making,
so
like,
hot.
scallion pancakes, which look super good.
Yeah, I was like, man, I want that. I was hungry.
And then CB gets Major Jelly.
Yes.
And he's like, I can do it too. And he starts flipping the pancake, and they don't do an idiot moment.
Yeah.
Where the jealous, stupid character comes in and fails and makes a mess, and everybody gets mad at him. No, they have Harim and Unchan hyping him up.
He's flipping this pancake successfully. Unchan and Harim are like, this is great, this is awesome. And in the background, Unse is kind of like, hey, Waffle Boy, can I get your number?
And he's just, like, silent.
Yeah, he's literally like... Meanwhile, Unchan and Harim are like, whoa, look at CB! He's like, so good at this!
Are you seeing this shit? Then we get, like, the coolest pairing that I never knew I wanted in this show.
Yeah.
We cut to Mr. Hong and Mr. Koo sitting in front of, like, this gorgeous cyberpunk pink lit butcher counter.
Yeah.
And it's like they're having a conversation. They were best friends as kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then Koo was like, listen, we've got beef because I'm already with Mama.
Yeah.
And, like, we are 2 rivers joined together. We are peas and carrots. Which, I don't know if you thought this, but whenever I hear peas and carrots, it reminds me of Forrest Gump.
Ah.
And I'm like, oh my god, Mr. Koo is the most Forrest Gump character.
Yeah.
Aside from Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And Mr. Hong is like, oh wow, you guys are like a river and peas and carrots. That's interesting. I kissed her under a bridge and we almost eloped together. And then we get no elaboration.
Literally, all we get is that mom comes out and she's like, "Stop telling stories," and then cut away, and we're like, "Oh,
yeah.
oh, okay, okay, I guess, okay."
Then we cut to Unchan, who is now playing with like a small battalion
Yes.
of Legos.
She's got a bunch of them now.
And like Unsei just kind of straight up breaks one. And
Yeah,
it's like,
she just picks it up and like breaks it, and Unchan is like, "Dude, what the?"
Yeah, and Hangyul has sent these little dudes over to Unchan with a card that says, "Cheer up, arms and legs of steel, invincible shorty."
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a poet.
What?
Move over, Mr.
Wow.
Pooh. You don't know shit about shit.
Oh man, and she's real happy about that, and I believe Unsei makes a comment that's like, who would be happy about being told that they have like metal arm and leg?
Yeah, she's like, you're the only one who would take that as a compliment.
Oh
God.
man.
And then she calls Hangyul, Unchan does. And he pretends to be annoyed.
Yeah.
Which is hard to watch.
Oh yes, it's very much like Unchan is like happy and blushing and being like, heck yeah, and Hangyul is just confused and like
sleeping on his own couch.
Yes.
Which is very interesting.
Also, while we're in the room, Unsei is kind of like solving the puzzle because Unchan is just kind of like, yeah, it's whatever. And she's like, he got you all these things, and she's like, yeah, it's whatever. And Unsei is like, didn't he also like run into the street for you? Didn't he also like do all of these great things for you?
We get like these cute flashback moments.
Yeah.
Because Unchan is calling him fickle, which is true. And then Unsei is like, you're also fickle.
Yeah.
Like, you're giving and getting mixed signals.
Yeah.
So that's like where Unchan kind of resolves to be like, I'm gonna be straight with him.
Yeah.
Or gay with him, rather.
You know how it is.
Either or, both. And she says, hey, why did you give me such a nice gift? And he goes, just take it. Doesn't mean anything. Why you even have to ask? Good night.
He's literally like, I'm hanging up.
What a dork.
Oh, man. So then we cut to the next morning, and Unchan is again calling. Hangyul is jogging, as he does.
Oh, very quickly before this.
Oh, yes, please.
This is where the outfit change happens that I want to talk about.
Okay.
But that night, while she's talking on the phone, she's wearing a Peanuts shirt.
Okay.
And it has Charlie Brown on it.
Oh my god.
So the universe works in mysterious ways.
Right.
Last time we got Shrek. Now we've got the validation of calling Minyup Charlie Brown.
That's right.
And Carrot Boy.
Absolutely allowed to call him CB.
Also, Unsei had a Mickey Mouse shirt on.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Yeah, I like things like that because it's a lived-in world and things are trademarked and branded IRL.
Yeah. But yes, so then it's morning jog with Hangyul, and Unchan calls him up and is like, hey, have you like eaten breakfast yet? And he's like, no, why? And she's like, I was just wondering because like usually this is like eat time. I don't know. Do you want breakfast? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And she's like, okay, great, I'm in front of your house. I'll come upstairs right now.
Exactly.
And he's like, I'm jogging. And, like, you can see he's, like, struggling with himself because there's the part of him that, like, actively wants to spend time with Unchan and is like, yeah! And the part of himself that's like, no, you can't be gay. And
this is, like, one step short of putting an actual angel and devil on his shoulder. Because he's acting like they are there and we just can't see them.
He's literally like, no, whatever, just go. And then he kind of, like, thinks about it and he's like, you know what, yeah, I want breakfast. And she's like, oh, great, are you on the road that you always jog on with the pavilion? And he's like, come here if you wanna. And she's like, I will. And we cut to her, like, jogging after him. Found him, is there.
He cuts to him, like, running, and then he pauses momentarily, hops up over a fence, and screams.
Yes, he's like, he cannot handle his conflicting emotions.
The gutturalness of it is
and
like,
we have a short thing that I didn't even realize was a phone call at first because he's talking through his, like, headphones.
Oh, yeah.
But he literally just goes kind of like, hey, you Jew, it's Hangyul. And then, like, keeps going, and I was like, what? But then, lo and behold, who pops up? Yuju, because Hangyul called her there because he is being dumb.
Just a mess.
Yeah.
This is like, I mean, I gave Hansung and Yuju all this shit in the world.
Yeah.
For the dysfunctional relationship scenes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, Hangyul better. Hangyul do it all day.
Hangyul gonna be good.
And, like, this is bad. This is real bad because Yuju shows up. She also, like, brought breakfast.
Yeah. It's heavily implied that he called her and was like, hey, you want to eat breakfast together? Why don't we, like, get something? Knowing that Unchan was coming because he needed to portray that image of, like, this is girl that I like. and you're just friend and coworker, and not even coworker, like you're
subordinate.
Yeah. So it's kind of like yet another moment of like we get this kind of like small burst of happiness, this small inkling that things are going to be great, and then it's taken away from us very quickly because Hangul can't make up his mind. He can't come to terms with his feelings. And so, you know, Unchan is very, like, obviously just, like, sitting on a ledge, kind of pissed. Like, what the heck?
Yeah,
you called me here to bring me breakfast, and you said we were going to have breakfast, and now Yuju is here, and you're eating her breakfast.
So much about this is wrong, because Yuju shows up, he takes the bag from her, like, within seconds of her getting out of the car.
He sees her, and he's like, thank God Yuju is here.
Yeah, saved me from my gay thoughts.
And so then we get into this, like, Hangul is obviously trying to, like... I don't even, like, know how to describe it.
He is incapable of talking to Unchan in the situation.
Yes.
So I think he invited Yuju as somebody he trusted so he can kind of talk to Unchan through Yuju. But his body language is back towards Unchan, facing Yuju.
Yes, and the way he words things is also bad.
Very exclusionary.
Yes. And
so he's eating, like, the breakfast Yuju got, and...
Unchan is already pissed because, like, she brought him breakfast and he literally took Yuju's instead.
Yes.
And he starts making these comments that are kind of like, hey, you know, man, when I first met Unchan, hated that little dude, he was a hoodlum. Yeah. But you know what, I got to know... And he starts, like, describing her living situation to Yuju. Yeah. And, like, later on in the episode, we get the, like, where he wasn't trying to be like, look at this poor kid. But it very much comes across as that to Unchan, because he's literally telling Yuju, like, look at this kid who has to work all these side jobs to support his family, and, like, you know, he's literally describing, like, the peeling chestnuts and the sewing dolls for 5 cents, and he's, like, trying to qualify it by being like, man, that's so, like, crazy, like, can you believe that they only give them 5 cents for dolls? But all Unchan can hear is him literally describing this, like, poor living situation, and this like it's awful for her. It really sucks.
Yeah, and she even does the cool thing that I don't think I'd be able to do in that situation, where she goes, hey, that's fucked up, like, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I'm agreeing with you, menial labor should get more than that. And I'm like, ooh, menial labor. Ugh. There's also just, like, Yuju doesn't know how to act in this scene.
Yes.
She, at one point, goes like, oh, is that memorial food?
Yes.
I love memorial food. And you're like, ooh, it's a shame someone has to die for it to, like, for you to get your snack on, then.
Fair enough. I do think that our feelings about that might be more of a cultural difference, though.
Oh, you're probably 100%
Because for us, we don't really do that.
No, you're right.
But yeah, Yuju is very much... She doesn't really know what to do, and she's trying to kind of, like... She's trying to include Unchan, because, like, Hangul is very much, like, talking to Yuju. Mm-hmm. And she's trying to kind of include Unchan, being like, oh, hey, like, what have you got there? Do you want some tea? Oh, that sounds good. Do you want some of what I have? Hey, do you want to come over here? And Unchan is like, no, it's fine. It's whatever I got. I'm here. And then Hangul is making it awful.
Yeah. After he says the line about menial labor,
yes,
Unchan just, like, kind of looks at him, and it's like the gloves are off, and she goes... habit, like a bad habit, like that's a really bad habit you have, like why can't you stop yourself from doing this?
Yes.
Like,
and as we know from episodes in the past, the bad habit that Hangul has is Yuju.
Yeah.
So
this is bad on so many levels, because this is Unchan couldn't get Hangul into his house one night, so she takes him to her place. Mm-hmm. And that's how he gets the information about her schedule, and, like, that perspective is because she was, like, vulnerable and, like, brought him into her space.
Yes.
And then, reciprocally, Hangul brings Unchan into his space by being like, yeah, you know, I have this relationship that's, like, a bad habit. Mm-hmm. And then both of them kind of, like, turning on each other.
Yes.
And, like, exploiting their openness. Like, that's something that can really shut a relationship down, kind of.
Yeah,
if you're like, mm-mm.
In episode 5, I remember, and also some in episode 6, we were talking about how great vulnerability is for, like, for two people to bond and two people to, like, connect and stuff, and, like, how much that says about a relationship. Mm-hmm. And this is very much like they took each other's vulnerabilities and they, like, spat them at each other. Like, yes. Like, Unchan was very much like, oh, you're gonna talk about my, like, crappy living situation? Alright, well, how about yours? And they're having this very, like, vague conversation with each other. Yuju does not want to be there. She wants anything but to be sitting there. She's like, why was I called here? What is going on? I don't like it. Yeah. She's trying, like, she's continuously like, hey, Unchan, do you want some tea? And the Unchan is just kind of like, listen, Gyul, you dumb idiot. I'm freaking mad. And
they start, like, not physically, they start arguing. Like, raised voices. And he's like, you'll kiss up to anyone. Which is him externalizing his jealousy towards Han Sung.
Yes.
And I was like, oh. But then she's in the situation where her jealousy for Yuju is also on full display.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said here in this sequence about, like, you can't think about relationships in terms of other people's relationships.
Yes.
So that's very good, especially considering it's like Han Sung and Yuju, which is the one relationship you never want to emulate.
Yeah. So then to end the situation, as Unchan is leaving, she delivers the ultimate roast. She walks over and she's like, I'm gonna eat this before I leave. And she looks down, she sees the cucumbers that Gyul picked out of his food like a picky baby, which I too am a picky baby, but but she sees them and she's like, why would you leave out the cucumbers, and eats them and puts the plate down and then walks off and just roasts him in front of Yuju, being like, he's a baby.
She's like, I'm gonna eat this cucumbers and leave.
Got him.
Roasted.
So yes, and Yuju is like...
She had nothing to do during that last, like, which is like, good for you, girl. Yeah. Just keep your head down.
This poor girl. So then...
CB is in agony at the shop.
Oh yeah, he rolls up to Waffle Boy and he's like, hey, did you get Unsei's number? What the heck? Stop it. That's like, my angel.
He's like, please, just tell me if you did. I'm not mad. It's just the doubt is killing me. Please, Sungi, help. Also, if you hit on her, I'm gonna crush your skinny legs.
And then Waffle Boy calls him a dumbbell.
Does he?
That's what my translation said, and he was unhappy about it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
He was literally like, he says something to him, he calls him a dumbbell, and CB is like, dumbbell? Dumbbell?
Yeah, because CB, he, like, goes to confront him. He hops through, like, the service window.
Yes.
As Sungi is walking out.
Well, Sungi gets a message, or maybe it might be a phone call. Yes. But he gets a notification, and he immediately is like, I've got to go. And he starts, like, he books it out of there. And CB is trying to confront him, and he's like, hey. Mm-hmm. So it's time for our Waffle Boy plot to thicken.
Yeah, the batter is thickening.
So we cut to a picture of Sungi with a woman.
Yes.
And then we cut, and he's at a restaurant or a cafe of sorts with the same woman that he had met before, that was giving him information.
Yes.
Very vague information to us. And we get a little bit more to this picture. You know, he's talking about, like, are you sure you don't, like, have her address? Like, is there anything you can tell me about her? And we find out that he has a child.
Mine was kind of vague, so I wasn't completely sure. I wrote, he wants to take care of someone's kid.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a line about the 3 years you spent with this person are like a non-existent memory to her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my god, what's going on?
Yeah. So it's very much like there is this woman that he obviously cares for and that he is looking for. And there's also this woman has a child that may or may not be his, but I know in mine it was heavily, like, kind of, like, implied that it was, like, his child.
Yeah, because it looks like a wedding photo or something. Like, the two of them standing together in their very nice, like, traditional clothes.
But yeah, it's also very much, like, implied that this woman that he's talking to knows more than she's letting on. Yeah. Because he's like, you sure you don't know anything? And then at the end he's like, just when you see her, tell her that I won't settle for just, like, visiting occasionally. I want to be in her life every day. I want to be with her and take care of her and take care of the kid.
Yeah.
And then we kind of, like, pan over to see that CB has followed him, and he is just sobbing.
Yeah. God. Because he's pure.
Yeah.
He's kind of playing the audience, which is something that you can do with, like, a fool character that's really good in writing.
Yeah.
It's just to kind of have them be our stand-in.
Yeah.
Because, of course, he leaves that situation, and he's talking to Sungi, and he's like, hey, I didn't mean to, like, spy on you, but, like, I understand how you feel, because I've also spent my youth and my passion to, like, dedicating to one person.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm gonna call you bro. And then, like, hearing CB compare these feelings, like, with this child involved and whoever this woman is that doesn't want to see Sungi to CB and say.
He's very, like,
he,
juvenile
like, grabs
romance.
him and he speaks at him in Japanese and he's like, hey, I don't need a brother like you.
Yeah.
Which is, like, dope.
And then CB is like, man, he would be the perfect brother if he didn't speak Japanese.
Whatever that means.
You know, we're back to those subtle hints of, oh, that's right. CB.
Maybe you're not an unassailably good character.
Yeah. We're like, Anyway, so now CB is kind of like in on another person's secret. Like he's discovered this thing about Waffle Boy, and he very much like comes in. He's like, hey, like I admire you, and then he compares the situation, which Waffle Boy, of course, is like, get out of here.
Yeah.
So yes. So then we cut to this just god awful customer, and Unchan is like, we can't do what you want, and she's like, what do you mean, do it? And he's like, no, listen, I can't do it. And she's like, just do it. And he's like, okay. And so Unchan kind of like walks over to the counter, and Harim is like backing her up all the way, being like, man, like first it was she didn't like the cup, then she didn't like this thing. What is her issue? Like, what is her deal, man? I'm so sorry that you're the one who has to deal with her. And Gyul immediately is like, come with me.
The customer is always right.
Yeah, he's like, the customer is always right. Come here. And he makes a comment that's like, customer's always right. And Unchan is like, but whatever. And he's like, follow me. It's time for me to scold you again.
Can I just say that I knew this was going to be about like a coffee purist thing?
Oh, I'm sure.
Just because it's so small and inconsequential that it's the perfect thing to have a big like fight break out over.
Yeah.
Just that, like, this Unchan is like believes in the coffee so much, she's like, no, you can't possibly do this.
Though, granted, this is also like, this fight that's breaking out is very much built on a lot of other things.
Oh yeah, they're mad about other shit.
Yeah, but this is kind of like that. So he calls her up, and he's scolding her as he does. He's being like, what, you don't talk to customers that way, I can't believe you, blah blah blah, you freaking. And Unchan is defending herself, being like, no, it doesn't like make it what she wanted, doesn't make any sense. And he's like, doesn't matter, blah blah blah. Oh
wait, we gotta like give him some credit for this actually though, because this is compared to episode 2 where he just chews her out in front of all the employees. He's actually brought her to somewhere else to talk to her.
Fair. Yeah. So,
good on him, but also fuck him.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's true. Usually he would just yell at her in front of everybody, but this time he does take her to a secret, not a secret location. He just takes her away from everyone and chews her out. Though you could make the argument that he's doing that because of customers, when before he does it in front of all of the employees.
All right, credit rescinded.
Regardless, we're back in this situation where Gyul is chewing Unchan out for no goddamn reason, and Unchan has like reasons as to why she's acting the way that she is, and she's not getting listened to. Gyul is just mad, and next thing we know, this argument escalates.
Yeah.
To the point where they're about to throw hands, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere runs CB and Harim to hold him back. They're like, hey, no, whoa.
It's a great shot because they come from opposite ends of like this narrow alleyway.
Yes.
And so Harim is in Gyul's corner, and CB is in Unchan's corner, and they're going back and forth. She's like, all my jobs are hard. You think I'm proud of being poor?
Yes, we come into this, They basically come back to this argument that they had before, and my translation had it as, you think poverty is something to be proud of, which I wrote down because I was like, ooh, that's a sick fucking...
Yeah.
Got him, yeah. Because it is, when Gyul talks... Because Gyul makes a point, we'll talk about it more later on, but he makes a point to be like, oh no, I'm like impressed by like the drive that you have, and like I know that I could never in a million years do what you do. Like when I talk about you, I talk about how much I admire the fact that you work so hard for your family and for your life. But when he talks about it, it very much makes it seem like he's being like, wow, look at this kid who is so hardworking. Man, look at you.
Quaint.
How quaint. How cool for you. And it's like, this isn't like, it's not like Unchan is like doing all of these things because it's like a cool, hardworking thing to do. It's like, no, this is, and she makes
she doesn't
a point
just
of it.
like have a Protestant work ethic. Like she needs to eat.
Yeah, she makes a point of it a bit more later, where she's like, this is literally my livelihood. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't eat. My family wouldn't eat. We wouldn't be able to pay rent. We wouldn't like live. Yes. Like, this isn't something that I'm like happy about and proud of. This is something that I have to do. And it's like, ooh, get him. Get him, Unchan.
And like I think Gyul got to a level in this argument that like he didn't even really get to when he was chewing her out over the coffee beans thing, and that was like him trying to make an example.
Yeah.
And this is him just like legitimately being too angry to contain himself.
I very much think it's like the coffee thing. like I said, was very much just a vessel. Like, he wanted a reason to be angry because he's upset about the fact that she exposed his vulnerability in retaliation to him exposing hers.
Exactly.
And he also doesn't understand that he exposed her vulnerability, so in his eyes, he's just like, out of nowhere, Unchan, like, called me out in front of Yuju, and it was stupid because I was being cool and talking him up, and you were mad for some reason. Whereas Unchan sees it as, you exposed me, so I bit right back and exposed you.
Yeah.
So we do have this misunderstanding between them. But
of course.
Also, they get angry and they fight and...
She says crap, and he's like, who do you think you're saying crap to?
Oh, I got, like, disgusting.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
He straight up breaks out the I pity you, which is, like, that's, like, the one thing that I was like, he's not even thinking about the future right now. This is just him, like, he's mad. And
then Unchan is like, I don't need anyone to pity me. I'ma leave. And Hangil is like, you think I need you? And she's like, alright.
I don't need a loser like you.
Yeah.
Like, that was the translation I got. That was... He said... I wrote it down. I don't need a user... I don't need a loser like you. How can you do this to me? It's the same, like, breath. And for me, that was, like, such a good moment because that's him being mad in the argument. And then that's also him, like, just being sad as well. Like, how can you do this to me?
Yeah.
Like, talking about the bad habit stuff. And her, that she brought that up.
So, Unchan decides, you know what, I don't need this, and she storms out, and is immediately, I think, what I really liked about this was before, when CB and Harim kind of, like, sprung out, CB immediately went to Unchan, and Harim went to Hangil, because that's, like, the people that they're close with, but when Unchan storms away, both of them follow after her.
Oh, yeah,
and Hangil is kind of left there in the alleyway, being like, whatever, like, what?
He says, I'll kill you if you stop him from leaving.
Yeah.
Which is just so extra.
But CB and Harim do not care. They follow after him. They follow Unchan to the locker room, and they're trying to be like, hey, like, no, come on, he's, what, you know, and she's like, get out, leave me alone.
She changes into the same clothes from the jogging scene, and I realized, oh shit, this is all the same day.
Yeah.
And that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
Because she goes and she says like a tearful goodbye to Mr. Hong. She's like, I'll call you later.
Oh, I wrote it down because I was like, oh gosh. She walks up to him and she says, I'm sorry, Mr. Hong. She like apologizes. She's like, I'm sorry. I'll see you later. And then she storms out. CB and Harim are still following her, being like, no, don't. And at some point, they stop her, like, right before she leaves. Harim specifically, like, kind of, like, grabs her arm and is like, wait, like, hold on. Let's talk. Let's, like, figure it out. You don't leave. And she looks up. Hangil is there. They lock eyes. And she, like, just gets rid of Harim's grip and just storms off. And we're like, no.
Yeah. And then it cuts to Hangil driving, and I had to, like, pause for a bit because I was like, that's real intense.
Yeah.
And then after I unpaused, it cuts to Unchan drinking with a dog, and Sweeper is also there.
Sweeper! Oh no! I had the opposite, where I was like, we cut to Sweeper, and you were like, Sweeper! Oh, Hansung is there. But yes, so they're drinking. Unchan probably called Hansung and was like, hey, let's hang out. I want a drink.
Yeah, because it's Hansung, we can't have a nice exchange with Unchan without there being some weird, creepy shit.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, I'm drinking, how many have I had, but I can't get drunk for some reason. And he's like, oh, wow, I was going to kidnap you after you got drunk. And she kind of goes, well, what were you going to do after that? And then he's like, you want to go for a drive? No. Which is just an exchange that could only be written.
That is not the translation I got.
Really?
My translation wasn't, like, good. And not that... I didn't, it wasn't as bad as Kidnap, but it still wasn't, like, nice and lighthearted. It was like, oh, I was hoping you'd get drunk so I could piggyback you, like, home.
Aww.
Which is, like, at first you're like, okay, and then you're like, wait a minute.
Hold up.
So not as bad as Kidnap, but still not good.
Yeah, and, like, that goes back to, like, the Hansung is bad because he's giving Unchan hope.
Yes.
And she's like, hey, what were you gonna do after you kidnapped me? And he's like, haha, let's go driving.
Yeah, so he goes, wanna go for a drive? And she's like, yeah. So then we cut to the car, and she's got her head out the window. She's having a great time. Sweeper's having a great time.
Yeah.
They're feeling that wind. And then we get another kind of, like, parallel shot of Hangil also driving.
Yeah, and he puts his hand up to, like, feel the wind as well. They both look supremely sad. It really sucks. And then
Hangil, I feel like, looks upset, and Unchan looks like she's sad, but she's trying to feel better.
I guess it's just because I like the character so much that like I see her sad and I'm like she just looked kind of defeated to me, like as opposed to normal.
I very much read it as like she was sad, but like she was kind of trying to be like, but I like this drive, and I don't want to be stuck in this sad place because I'm with my cool friend with his cool dog. And
yeah, there's also something with, does she like the driving with Han Sung, or does she like remembering that time she drove with Han Gyul? And because I think for Han Gyul, it's definitely him putting his hand up is like remembering that time.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely thinking about it.
Yeah. So there's a little bit to read into there before we cut to Han Gyul eating the biggest pan of kimchi fried rice ever.
Oh my god, yeah, he's having feelings.
No more bachelor portions. He's eating with the ladle.
He's literally eating with the ladle, eating like Un-chan would, and thinking about Un-chan, like hearing her voice.
Oh, it's so sad.
Having big boy feelings.
Big boy feelings in a little baby brain. This little tiny baby heart can't take it.
Yeah. So then we cut back to the cafe, and it's very evident that nobody is happy that Un-chan is gone. Literally, Hangul is there, and Harim is like, did you call Un-chan? She coming back? And CB comes over, and he's like, I texted Un-chan like 20 times, and Harim is like, man, I wish Un-chan was here. I freaking love Un-chan. I wish she was here. God, wish she could be here.
He's like basically one step away from beating his fist on the floor. Like,
it's very much this, like, I don't want to say passive-aggressive, because it's like, it's just, he's very much being like, wow, I wish someone would call Un-chan and tell her to come back. Hangul!
Yeah.
Wow, Un-chan is such a good person to be around and should be here. Hangul!
God. Is this also the part where Seung-gi as well is like...
Seung-gi at this point doesn't yet say anything, but later will chime in.
Okay.
Because at this part, it's just like Harim kind of like walks up and is like, hey, did you tell Un-chan to come back to work yet? And CB comes by and is like, I texted her like 20 times and she hasn't responded. Please. And then Harim kind of like jumps up and down and goes, I love Un-chan.
And then we get like a really good comedy edit where it cuts to just like a cool blanket on the floor.
Yes, it's time for the emotional burrito.
She's completely cocooned. And then Unsei is like, you two fight all the time. What's different about this time?
Yeah.
And so it's like, ooh, interesting outsider perspective. And then Unsei...
Yeah, everybody is kind of having that perspective where they're all just kind of like... Because I remember when she's storming out, Harim is making comments that's like, literally he does this all the time. You know what he's like. Why are you so angry this time? And it's like, the only one who saw was Yuju.
Yeah.
And Yuju... Poor Yuju.
Unsei has her sister's phone, though.
Yes.
And she's like, hey, you have one missed call from Jerk? And she's like, what? And then she grabs the phone, runs upstairs, and we cut to Hangul brushing his teeth in the tub.
Yeah, I literally was like, Hangul, why are you sitting in the bathtub?
You've never done that?
Just sit in the empty bathtub with all my clothes on and brush my teeth?
I just kind of love that feeling.
Okay.
It's so interesting, because... when I was younger, I used to have, like, a Pokemon Game Boy game.
Yeah.
And I remember when nobody was home, I would grab my blanket, and I would go into the shower, and I would wrap up, like, on the floor in the shower with my blanket, and I would just, like, play Pokemon.
Ah.
So, like, I think it's probably just, like, a depression thing or whatever that they're showing. But I love the dry bathtub vibes.
Okay, fair.
Yeah,
I was much more of a like it's time to build a blanket for it myself. Like we went all the way. My brother also had bunk beds, so I could like drape the blanket up and make the fucking look, and I'd be like, heck yeah. But also I don't know how many times I just like made my own blanket for it because I was like, it's time to be underneath something.
Yeah, and Hangul is rehearsing his lines because like we said earlier, he thinks poorly in the moment and he doesn't want to cringe at himself anymore.
Yes. So Hangul wants to call Un-chan and be like, hey, come back to work.
Please. He starts like very gentle and then he just doesn't know how to handle himself.
Yeah, it literally starts to just kind of like, you were wrong. Please come back to work.
Your job is here if you like it.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, Un-chan.
You messed up, come back to
You're late
work.
for your shift. What's going on, buddy? Get your ass to Mars.
Yeah.
God.
So yeah, he obviously, he's practicing. But then the moment comes where he gets a call from Un-chan, and he may have practiced, but he still wasn't ready.
Also, is the name on his phone Hardworking Young Man for you as well?
Yes. And mine, I think it says hardworking youth, and for her it says he's good for nothing.
Oh.
Yeah.
What a cute couple.
So he picks up and he's like, hello, and she's like, you called? And he's like, what do you mean? You
what? No, I
called
would
me?
never call you. Hold on, let me check.
And she's like, no, you totally called me. And he's like, hold up. And he's like, that call was from 3 days ago. And she's like, what? And she looks and she's like, oh, sorry. And just hangs up. And he's like, wait.
Yeah,
And then she looks at Unsei and she's like, that call was from 3 days ago. And Unsei's like, I didn't say it wasn't. And she tries to suffocate her sister with a pillow.
Oh yeah, she just straight up walks over and smothers her.
Yeah.
That's the end of Unsei in this show.
Yeah, that's right. She's...
Sorry, CB.
I'm so sorry. But
Gyul brushes harder.
Yes.
God. Then we cut to Unchan in the booth with Han Sung.
Yeah, it's time for music lessons, I guess.
Yeah, they're doing like a 4 seasons thing where they play each instrument one at a time, and then bring them together. But she's cute. I mean, she's playing drums. How can you not love it?
Yes.
She sat down at the drum kit and I was like, oh shit, is she actually gonna like play along? Does she know?
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, she's just dicking around.
Yeah.
Which is way better than the alternative.
Yeah.
And she's doing that thing that I sometimes like to do where you just personify things.
Uh-huh.
So she's like, this keyboard, I bet he's a vegetarian. I bet he could use some protein in his life. He's probably real skinny. And it's like, girl, what are you talking about?
She's just having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's playing around. Han Sung is like, playing around, I guess. I don't know. He's outside the booth. She's by herself in this booth, playing all the instruments, even doing the vocals, having a good time. And then we cut to Yuju.
Yeah.
And she's trying to call.
Just like,
Han Sung is not picking up. And she is in his house and she is bored. We cut to her like opening the curtains. She sets up the CD cases. She plays dominoes.
It's like the fucking beginning of Tangled.
Yeah.
Like, God, poor Yuju.
So yeah, and then we cut to Gyul having a war all by himself.
Oh yeah, he's playing Lego and then he's like, open the gate.
He literally is like, the war is beginning.
Yeah, and then he's playing with the dragon, which is what Unchan was playing with.
Yes, and he so first he's having a war all by himself, and then now he's flirting with Unchan, but all by himself. Because he's like being Unchan and being like, attack Gyul, oh, attack Unchan, and then he's like blowing his bangs up.
Yeah.
And being like, saying things that Unchan says, and just kind of like trying to get over how upset he is.
Yeah, trying and failing.
So yeah, it's very much like we see that these two characters, Unchan is kind of approaching it as like she has a lot of time on her hands because she's not going to her job. And so she's kind of filling it with like doing things around the house and like going to hang out with Han Sung, blah, blah, blah. Whereas Gyul is just kind of like sitting in his bathtub being sad. Playing with his Legos, being sad. Eating rice, being sad. Yeah.
And then we realize, like, oh, it's 2 a.m.
Yeah, they walk out of the music studio and Unchan is like, oh, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to keep you here until 2 a.m. And he's like, it's whatever.
Yeah, Han Sung, ever the idiot, is like, hey, why don't you go back to this cafe? I could, like, talk to Gyul about it for you.
Yes.
And she's like, hey, don't ever talk to other people about me. It makes me feel crappy. And then she just kind of volunteers, like, my family became poor after my dad died, and I was untalented in junior high, but please keep it to yourself. Yeah.
She very much is just kind of like, I'm not hardworking because I want to be and because it's a cool trait to have. She's like, I wasn't good at studying. I didn't have a special talent. The only thing I could do is go into doing labor and the workforce. And I mean, honestly, the one thing that she kind of had was taken away from her because she taught Taekwondo. Yeah. And she was great at that. And then that was taken away. And so now all she can do is these like menial jobs. And, you know, she's also very much in a place where like her new kind of found passion is coffee. And she feels like that's being taken away from her too because she doesn't want to go
because her boss has a huge crush on her and can't handle it.
Yeah, literally.
Unsafe working conditions.
Yeah, so she's very straight up. She's just kind of like, and we kind of like get, because before we had her feelings just kind of like from her face and from like when she would get angry and like say things to Gyul, like being poor is not like something to be proud of.
Yeah.
But now we kind of have like in her own words like, this is how I feel about it and this is why I'm not happy. But of course not said to Gyul, the person who needs to hear it. Instead said to Han Sung, who goes, okay.
Okay.
So then,
They both kind of like go to sleep with next to their little Lego dudes.
yes.
Which is pathetically sad. Almost too cute.
Unchen's has a little box bed and a little, like, tissue blanket.
Yeah.
It's very cute. So then we cut to Coffee Prince, and once again, everyone is mad at Gyul because he won't talk to Unchen.
Yeah, Hiram is giving him the business.
Hiram is giving him shit. CB jumps in and is giving shit. Sunky turns around and is like, hey, why isn't Unchen here? And he's like, I fired. And he's like, well, when Unchen comes back, I made a new thing and I want him to try it.
Exactly.
And he just kind of, like, leans back in, and even, like, Mr. Hong kind of walks by and is like...
Yeah, no, because they're all jumping on him, and then Mr. Hong walks in, and Gyul's like, you want some too? And he goes, man, what a loser. Yeah. As he picks gum off the ceiling, like, not the ceiling, the glass window, and just continues chewing it.
Oh my god, yeah. It's very... I very much love the differences of how everyone is treating him, because Hiram is, like, all in just kind of like, I want Unchen back. I am upset that Unchen is not here. I don't like it.
Give me back my prince, Gyul.
CB is just kind of, like, worried because he's been texting her and she hasn't been responding, and she's like, please, just give me one message that says you're okay. Sunky is kind of, like, doing his, like, still kind of angsty and still uncaring, but... I do actually care a little bit, whatever.
I need my human garbage can back.
Yeah, and Mr. Hong is just like, God, Gyul, you're an idiot.
I step on her toe and scrape all the waffle batter into her mouth. Like a trash can.
Oh my god. So nobody is happy with Gyul, and lo and behold, who shows up? None other than Yuju.
Just here to save everybody's problems in the best way.
Yes. I actually even wrote down, she kind of also gets on his ass too, because she, like, sits down and she's like, so, like, where's Unchen? And he's like...
I fired him.
I fired Unchen. Fucking...
Oh no, the way she brings it up too is, like, stone cold.
Yes.
Because she's like, hey, Hansung has a new girlfriend now. Where's Unchan?
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
She literally is like, Hansung has a new girlfriend, and he's like, oh, is it that girl from the exhibit? And she's like, so where's Unchan?
Like, just a big clue for him.
Yeah.
That he just whoosh over his head.
Yes, so,
They're talking about Unchan, and she says, oh, I know how you feel. You miss him and you want to get over him at the same time.
Yes.
And I'm like, damn you, Jew.
Damn you, Jew.
Damn, that's deep.
So she gives him some advice. She's kind of like, oh, well, I once had a similar situation where, like, you know, someone, like, this whole thing with, like, her...
I wrote it down.
Okay, great, yeah.
So she's like, if you're even contemplating that you want him back, then you need him.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you didn't, you wouldn't even be thinking about it. And it's like, she tells him this story about a fight she had with her gallerist in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, 3 months later, the gallerist calls her and is like, hey, 4 p.m. or 7 p.m.? And she's like, for what? And he's like, it's for a show. And she says, okay, 7 p.m. And it's this, like, beautiful piece of advice that's just like, hey, sometimes both of you just want to pretend like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I feel strange about it.
First.
Yeah, I feel strange about that kind of advice.
Mm-hmm.
But we can talk about that kind of in our summary.
Yeah.
Conclusions.
Yeah. So yeah, she gives him this advice and he takes her up on it, like, almost word for word. Before that, we do cut to, home where we see that Unchan is, like, trying to make herself a busybody, very much.
She's just annoying her family.
Yeah, she's nagging her sister, she's nagging her mom,
they're both like, everyone. Just go back to work.
Yeah, and they're like, why? Go to the cafe. Freaking leave us alone.
God.
And she's like, whatever. And then she gets a call from Gyul, and he goes, hey, black bean noodles, or I don't even remember what the other option was.
It was jjajangmyeon or hangover soup, I think.
Yeah. And she goes, what? And he's like, just, which one? And she's like, alright, I guess black bean noodles, pretty good. Mm-hmm. And he's like, great, meet me at the same Chinese restaurant.
I know, and it was so sweet. And then we just cut to something that's clearly not jjajangmyeon.
Yeah, she's got this, like, pile of, like, meat that's, just, like, fried meat.
The most beautiful, overfull plate of sweet and sour pork I've ever seen. This might be my favorite episode just for that, like, food porn that's going on.
Yes.
And she's like, haha, you're not getting off that easy.
Yeah.
Like,
he's like, why did you have to order the extra big special plate? You couldn't get the regular order? And she's like, hey, I got him. It's never enough, the regular. Also, screwing you by getting your wallet.
Oh, yeah.
So she's eating very happily, stuffing pork into her face, and he is just grinning and laughing and having a great time just watching her, and she's like, what? And he's like, how many pieces are you gonna stuff in your mouth? And she's like, what?
Yeah, like, more than they were angry, they're relieved to be back together.
Yes, it's very much just kind of like they both did want to call each other and see each other, but neither of them was going to, and now that Hangul has kind of, like, made that first move to be like, hey, let's do it, they're both very happy to just be back in each other's presence again. And Unchen pours him a little alcohol. And is like, here you go, a drink. And he's like, you want to carry me, like, home again? And she's like, just kidding.
Yeah.
And she brings it to herself, and she glugs that.
Which, then she refills, and she's like, here, drink a little bit.
Yeah, she's like, come on, just a little. And
she
he's like,
sips from it, and then puts it back on the Lazy Susan, and I'm like, oh shit, I know what that is. That's an indirect kiss. I was super hype about that.
He takes one sip, immediately goes like, grabs his throat, and we cut to them just drunk on the streets. Jumping
and singing, and it's like the chorus of this song is, I know you have the hots for me.
Oh, mine was, I know that you're in love with me.
Oh. I feel like mine's a little more punk rock.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think I would prefer yours, but I think that mine may be more accurately described.
Yeah. And they're both, like, they're like, stand by me, like, just singing the song.
Yes, there's one point where they're pointing at each other being like, I know you fell in love with me. I know you fell in love with me.
And he's like, wait, you. Like, he fucks up the lyrics.
So yeah, they're drunk and they're singing, they're having a great time. They find this little, like, floor fountain thing.
Yeah, they're both wearing, like, white shirts with black pants. They look like a little boy band.
Yeah.
I thought that was super cool.
So they're playing around in the water, they're splashing each other, they're having a great time, and once they've kind of, like, had their fill of fun, they start to finally talk about what is going on. Hangul makes this comment that's like, hit me with all your strength. As hard as you can, just once. And she's like, I don't hit people without a reason to.
I have discipline.
Yeah. And then they both kind of talk, and Hangul, like, apologizes. They kind of, like, finally address to each other what was going on. Not fully, because Hangul, I don't think ever, like, actually calls her out for, like, what he said about Yuju, but she does kind of be like, hey, like, my situation isn't something that I'm happy about, and that's cool. And he's like, he shares what I talked about earlier, where he's like, I talk about it not because I'm making fun of you and not because I'm trying to call you out in front of people. It's because I think that you're really amazing for being able to do what you do. And he's like, I know that he says something like, if I could die and come back and I still wouldn't be able to do what you do.
He starts talking about that, and then he, like, cuts himself off. Because you can see, like, she's kind of just crying against the wall there.
Yes.
Which is very sad. And he's like, come on, punch me. I'll feel bad unless you punch me.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay.
She's like, right, and she smacks his.
She, like, doesn't, like, let up. Like, he gets a nosebleed, which is like, if you're doing a free shot, you'd never go for the nose.
We cut to them sitting, and she's like, wow, is your nose so weak that I hit it once and it bleeds? And he's like, hey.
God.
So,
he's like, you should be my bodyguard.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm already sick of seeing you at work all the time.
Yeah.
And he goes, really? And she, like, quiet, and he goes, really? Like, he just wants to know for real.
Yeah.
And then she's like, yeah, I am. And it's like, come on, all you had to say was no.
Yeah.
Come on.
She makes a comment, though, that's like, sorry for hitting you so hard and making you bleed. Kind of like her... Because he, in the prior conversation, he apologized and she never really did. So even though she's not apologizing for exactly what she... Like, the exact reasons, we know that this is kind of her, like, I'm sorry.
It's a symbolic apology.
Yeah.
It's a symbology.
Oh.
Wait, no, that's another thing.
Sympology.
Ooh.
But yes, so it's very much like, I know in the past when we've talked about, like, all the things that happen in rom-coms, one of the things that I've mentioned is that one thing that rom-coms taught me is that everything happens because nobody talks to each other. It's because it's always misunderstandings. Yes. It's always, everyone has feelings, nobody just says them. And this is a very good moment of, even though it took a while for us to get there, and even though it was only, like, they had to get drunk a little before it happened, they did sit down and they talked about, like, hey.
Yes.
Like, this is what. Which I was like, yeah, good job, kids. Proud of you.
And then they do the hair blowing thing back and forth.
Yes. Oh, yes. Also, really quick, I just want to mention, before, when they're all kind of, like, shitting on Gyul, being like, bring Unchan back, Harim starts blowing up his bangs at him, being like, don't you miss that?
Aggressively.
Yeah.
And then we cut to, like, the next day where the Coffee Prince employees, their menu's in English now. Yeah. So CB's like, oh, she said strong? I thought she meant straw.
Yeah.
And that's just, like, this interesting little thing thrown in. And we can see Unchan showing up in the background.
Oh, yeah, we start back up on our, like, Harim is being like, man, wouldn't it be so nice if Unchan was here, huh, Gyul? And then they're making all these little comments, and then she kind of, like, rolls up and is like, oh, I didn't know I was that great. I didn't know you missed me that much.
Yeah, and she's cool. She's got a shirt with sneakers on it.
Oh, yeah. And they run out, they're like,
her.
Unchan! They're so happy.
Except for Gyul, who, like, stays at the cart to actually provide service to their customers.
Yeah, which, like, fair, good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Even Sungi gives this look, and it's, like, such a specific look that I know exactly what he was saying, and it's, my man.
But yeah, it's very much like Harim is just kind of like, oh, thank God you're back, big hug, I love you, Unchan. And CB is like, why didn't you respond to my texts?
Oh,
and Unchan is like, you're being a little stalker.
Yeah, but, quit being a little creep.
Yeah.
God.
But yes, so she's back, and everyone is happy that she's back, including Sunki, even though he might not outwardly show it. He is.
Yes.
I think he makes a comment. He's just kind of like, hey, Unchan, can you cut some apples and bring them here?
Yeah. And then I might be missing a step here, but something happens between Gyul. They're doing the downstairs thing again. And
yes, okay, so she's got a waffle to deliver, and he's kind of like, Unchan is back, it's time to revisit my picking on her by flirting by picking on her. And he's like doing the thing where he's like, oh, you can't get past, and Unchan is like, come on, the waffle's gonna get cold, I gotta deliver this waffle to the customer, it's not gonna be good if I wait too long.
And then like, CB steps in.
CB rolls up and he's like, hey, stop bullying I've noticed that you've been bullying Unchan and I don't like it. Stop it.
The way he says it, he's like, hey, you're bullying her so much that she's just watching out for you all the time and won't stop looking at you. Yeah. And you're always looking for her so you can bully her.
He misreads everything.
That's whack.
And then it's Mr. Hong rolls by and he's like, you idiot. Yeah. It's not called bullying, it's called playing around.
It's a love quarrel.
Yeah.
God.
And CB is like, what?
And then we cut to Unchan, like, rehearsing, asking Gyul out.
Yes, she's like, hey, you want to get some dinner? Oh, my scooter's not working. Maybe you could give me a ride home in your car and we could get some food and, like, hang out.
Yeah, and it's
kiss.
So pure. God. I'm getting a little, like, my heart, that was very cute.
Yeah.
And he leaves in a big hurry.
Oh, yeah, he comes out and he's sprinting and she's kind of like, hey, want to get food? And he's like, not right now. And he speeds out.
Yeah, and the first thing I thought was, oh shit, something's wrong with Grandma. Oh yeah. And then we find out like seconds later, from Harim, I think.
Because Unchan turns around and she's like, what's his deal? And Harim is like, his grandma collapsed. And then cut to hospital. Grandma's in a hospital bed. She's unconscious. Mom is there. Gyul is kind of like looking on through the window.
Which is a legitimately scary shot.
Yeah.
Like having been in a hospital recently and just like you see through that window like just all kinds of shit that you're never prepared to see. And it was completely upsetting. And then just like seeing him having to look at somebody who he loves.
Yeah.
Like through that window. It was like a very jarring moment in the context of the story.
Yes.
It also just puts everything into a much wider perspective. Because in the same way that Unchan's like, because my dad died, there's like this looming threat of death over Grandma now.
Yeah.
And it just puts everything they were arguing about into such a smaller box.
Yeah.
That it's like none of this was as important as I thought it was.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have this like no dialogue kind of like shot of that. And we just see that she's in the hospital and she's unconscious. And then we cut to Unchan waiting outside of Gyul's like apartment complex. And so she's kind of like sitting there and she like gets up to leave and then she's like, no. And then she like ends up running inside. She runs up to his door. She knocks on the door and he opens it. And she's like, hey, I was trying to like call you. I just wanted to know if everything's okay, if like your grandma's okay. And Gyul's just kind of like,
come in.
So yeah.
he's explaining the situation to her.
Yes.
He's like, my grandma is in the last stage of stomach cancer.
Yes.
He didn't even say late stage in my translation.
He said last in mine too.
Last stage.
It was like she's in the last stage. And Unchan was like, oh, well, what about like getting surgery? And he's like, no, there isn't a surgery to fix this.
No, yeah, because of her age and also just the progression.
Yeah.
And he starts opening up, like, unprompted, which is, like, in those situations, yeah, you do just kind of start talking.
Yeah.
So, like, the actor, I'm gonna keep complimenting him because I also saw him in Train to Busan recently.
Yes, okay. We need to finish this, but we're gonna talk about that.
Okay, cool. We'll do, like, a cool little after thing.
Yeah.
So, he just starts beating himself up.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen someone do it before. He says, I'm so dumb. I should have known.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, like, there's no way. And then
yeah.
Because he's like, oh yeah, my grandma who normally spoils me, I should have known when she was setting up all these blind dates and trying to give me coffee prints as like a responsibility that there was something going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, poor guy. And Unchan, going back to the car rescue scene or the hospital scene, she says, you can cry if you want.
Yes.
Like, you don't have to not be vulnerable around me.
Yeah, she's like, if you want to cry, do it.
And then he just comes in with the, I hate myself and I feel selfish.
Yeah.
In which she responds, like, she takes a big pause or like kind of bites her lip a little bit and thinks and goes like, do you want me to make you feel better?
Mm-hmm.
And then she just crosses over to him and just straight up kisses him.
Yep.
And I was so shocked by this. I really couldn't like believe how abrupt.
Yeah.
Like what at this point in the show, this is episode 7. We're less than halfway, like just barely almost there. And like I don't know how things are going to progress.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and he closes his eyes.
Yeah.
Which, callback to everything at the beginning.
Boom.
Like, closing his eyes, that means he's, like, not acquiescing. He's just kind of giving himself over to it.
Yes. This kiss very much comes out of left field. I remember watching this for the first time being like, what? And even now I really wrote down, Unchan, what?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you want me to cheer you up, make you feel better? And he's kind of like, And then she just crosses over, takes his face and kisses him. And just in the context of everything that has happened and like after this like big emotional moment, it's just very much like, whoa, what?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like grief and romance overlapping.
Yeah.
Is strange.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like poetry where you just put two things together and see how that makes you feel.
Yeah.
Like here we have late stage stomach cancer and also from one perspective heterosexual and from one perspective homosexual kiss. And the fact that he closes his eyes as opposed to the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, is he okay with it now? Is this an appropriate time to even be doing this?
Yes.
Are your romantic feelings for him kind of overshadowing the role that you might need to have as a friend and just being supportive right now?
Yeah, my first reaction was very much just kind of like, is this the right time, Unchan?
Yeah.
My initial reaction, I remember the first time I watched it too, was just kind of like, whoa, no, this is not the time for the 360 pan kiss swell of romantic music. Like. Yeah,
and like, I'm so curious to see how the next episode starts.
Yeah.
I'm so curious to see how they go from here with the whole I'm secretly a girl thing.
Yeah.
Because in light of like everything that's happening, that seems like it's been minimized. Like his current feelings are so much bigger than, oh, I found out my employee was cross-dressing.
Yes. I'm very interested to I know, obviously I've seen this, so I know what happens, but I'm very interested to see your reaction in the coming episodes of what they explore and what kind of gets like pushed to the foreground and what gets pushed to the background.
Yeah, like what, because I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but we get our first like inclination of how much time has passed in this episode because it's the 1 month anniversary gift.
Yes.
So we're a third of the way through the trial period for Coffee Prince as set forth by Grandma.
Yes.
And now Grandma's like in jeopardy, and we don't know what's gonna happen with that. And also like things are progressing very quickly in this Hong-Gyul Unchan relationship now.
Not to mention when Yuju came and talked to Hong-Gyul before they got into the emotional talk, she handed him kind of like some papers and was just kind of like, oh, just look over this and like give him a call if you want and set up an appointment. So it's very vague, But we know that he is thinking about, like, going to America and wanting to do something else, and, like, this coffee thing for him is just kind of like he's got to do it right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very much just kind of like, where are we going? Like, what happens next?
This is a pre-mid-season shakeup.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like we've reached a point where the rest of the episodes are not going to resemble the first half in the way that you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of got into our closing thoughts as
yeah.
well. Is there anything else?
It was a natural transition to the closing thoughts.
Is there anything else you wanted to add about just this episode rewatching in particular?
Yeah, as far as this one, I don't have any like anything. I know I was talking to you before we sat down because we were talking about our notes, and I mentioned that I have a lot less notes, and I think it's because this episode is a lot of things that I kind of like knew. Like, kind of like how we've been getting those, like, short bursts of, plot and, like, things for different characters. For you, I know it's a lot of, like, kind of, like, vague, like, oh, what is that? But for me, that's very much just kind of, like, reminding me of this thing. So when it does enter later and we learn more about it, like with Sunki, this episode where we kind of found out more, for me, last episode, when they kind of, like, brought it up a little, I was like, oh, yes, that's right, that's this. So, like, when it was actually addressed, I was kind of like, I already knew that this was coming. I already know what this is about. So yeah, this episode for me was very much a lot of things that I kind of knew were coming, and that it was more like I was interested to see what you were going to think, because I already knew, like, all of the things. So
yeah, hearing
them from somebody who has watched it for the first time is very interesting.
Yeah. This is big shocking.
Yeah.
So I'm almost at a loss for, like, what else I can say other than, like,
it really...
this is not the show that was advertised.
Yeah. I know we've talked about, like, the roller coaster of emotions that happens in these shows, in this genre specifically, but yeah, there have been quite a couple times where I've watched something and been like, oh, the setup plot is this one thing, and then next thing I know, we're getting into something that I completely didn't expect.
No, this has completely, like, subverted my expectations for the arc of the series. So I just so curious. I almost really just want to get into my prediction for next time, because I have a lot to say about that.
All right, yeah, go ahead. What do you think happens episode 8?
So I think in episode 8, I shouldn't even say I think, because at this point it's more of a hope for me. Because I would really just like to see Gyul goes, like, what the hell was that about, Un-chan? Like, you're my employee, this is kind of wrong. And she goes, listen, I'm a girl, and I have feelings for you. And, like, I'm pretty sure you have them too, you big dummy. And then I would just kind of, like, if they agreed to, like, start going out or dating or whatever, and, like, there's some amount of attention given to, like, Un-chan meeting his family and finding out, like, what's going on there, and, like, making sure that Grandma sees that, like, he's gonna have somebody there who helps pull him out of his own ass. And, like, Yuju feels like she's peeling away from Hansung of her own accord. Which is great for her character, because she's realizing what she wanted isn't really what she thought she wanted.
Yeah.
It's not being redirected at Gyul, because she's better than that. And, like, I just want to see these things kind of drift away from where they were set up in the first episodes. And we're going to reconfigure just a big exchange of roles and relationships.
A very hopeful episode 8.
I have a lot of hope for it.
Really? Yeah. Just the idea of, like, listen, we lay it out all on the table right now.
I know it's an uphill battle, because nobody ever sits down and is like, hey, but at this point, there's no way I feel like Un-chan as a character can not reveal this information. I feel like she has no choice but to be like, listen, I'm a chick, I lied to you, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But
I really like you, and I'm so sorry that this is happening to you.
Yeah.
And this is how I thought I could make you feel better, which is its own thing, like we talked about.
Yeah.
But, God, if he just throws her out of the apartment and prays the gay away, then I'm gonna be sorely pissed.
Man. Well, episode 8 is next.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see what happens. This was episode 7.
Grandma's going to heaven.
Grandma.
Oh, bye.
Bye.
Bye, Grandma.
Bye, Grandma.